My name is Priyas Prajapati. I'm a senior technical project manager at Agile. I have a question. If you can just go back to that case study one slide. You did mention there are a lot of different departments in typical environment. So if you can just give more insights,
Sure.
like I've seen a lot of product companies work with this way. And having said that, we have a lot of problems of dependency and everything. So how we can make it more efficient in such a manner that we can reduce the waste of time and other wastes?
Exactly. Excellent question. So, yeah, I mean, when we grow in size, we end up having similar structure, right? The problem here was this data ingestion team. I mean, again, here for simplicity, I have just shown one team, but we had like more than 15 data ingestion teams. We had more than, I guess, 6 or 7 APIs team. We had more than 20 front-end teams. Set of front-end teams were led by one business stakeholders. Another set of these ingestion teams were led by another business stakeholder. The way to address that is creating value streams, okay, which has combination of all of them. So say for example, just to give an example, in our product, there is a value stream for desktop, okay, which had, after the transformation, a good amount of coverage from all these areas. So there was a data ingestion team, there was an API team, there was a front-end team, but they were part of the same value stream. So when it came to the PI planning, the business objective, everybody knew what is the priority for this art. Everybody knew what are the top 3 goals, or what is the order in which everybody has to tackle it. Okay, so it still had these teams, just that earlier these were like 4 different groups. Now some of them were part of one group, aligning to the business, right? So value streaming the business was the solution here, or was something that we found helpful.
Okay, thank you.
Hi, Dhaval. You were talking about a global team. So, like you said, there are you have team from all over the world. So, like to align with a common goal, how you taken care? Because it will be difficult, as you said, to conduct a team like a sprint alignment and sprint planning. Because when you are working with a global team with a different time zone, probably they are like there are 2 teams might be on the same time zone at the same time. When we are talking global, as you said, like you have APAC, US, India, then how you have taken care for those team?
Right. So I think global team is not a problem. Alignment to the value or goals is the problem, right? So the PI planning is what helped us there. Because of the PI planning, it was kind of mandated to start with until people understood the value, why we are doing that. And then obviously people were actually doing that willingly. But the PI planning helped us giving that common opportunity for business to show the roadmap, for the team to create the plan as per the business priorities. When these goals are identified, the priorities are identified for the PI, I don't think there is a problem for individual teams to kind of create their own sprint plans and execute on those priorities. The problem generally is agreeing on the global priority, I mean the common priorities, right? So that's where it helped. And not only PI planning, we also have like weekly meets, right? Wherein all the scrum masters within that art, they meet, they talk about the progress, they also talk about any challenges, dependencies that were identified earlier or identified recently, right? So yeah, I think it's just that coming to that. And also secondly, initially when we adopted SAFE, we were having that full 2 days of PI planning. So what we tweaked there was, instead of having in like 2 days, because it was difficult for everybody to attend, we divided that into like 3 or 4 days. Some of the arts follow 3 days, some of the arts follows 4 days. Day one being just the business overview, the architecture overview, the development and QA best practices. And then the day two begins with the actual PI planning in terms of coming up with the plan for the next PI. I hope it helps.
Hi, this is Nirav from Sophos.
Hi.
I wanted to understand, was there any deployment strategy you guys adopted while you are scaling at a mammoth scale?
Deployment strategy, I mean, I wouldn't say there was a single deployment strategy, but the core focus was given on maturing the CI/CD practices, right? We gave a lot of focus on automating the test cases so that the testing becomes effective and faster, and like starting from that quarterly release, we came to sprintly release and also on-demand release because of the CI/CD practices. We also follow the feature flag mechanism, right? So things are delivered, they're deployed in the the production environment. They're released only when business feels they're confident with that, right? Partial release is like rolling out things for the internal users and then doing some early experiments, and once everybody's satisfied or everybody's okay with the performance, or like monitoring that in the production for a while, then opening up for the external user. So yeah, like improving CI/CD practices and utilizing feature flag. I think these two are the keys.
And any specific tool you can recommend for feature flags?
Launch Darkly was the one that we were using, but I don't think tool is that plays a significant role. It's just that people used to understand this concept and think through it, right? Because otherwise everybody would be like, okay, my code is in production and it is live. It's not that. I mean, you can control it. You can simply control it using your configuration files, right? A Boolean, show this button or not, or show this tab or not, right? These tools will allow you to have some additional flexibilities, like behind the scenes you can enable it for a few set of users, like you can just configure their user IDs or stuff like that. But yeah, the concept is just that decouple the deployment and release.
Okay, thanks.
Hi, Dhaval. So any practices you have followed to motivate the team, because it, as you rightly said, like it's been almost 1.5 year of
Yes.
journey. You have seen lot of up and downs, right? So if you can share your experience.
Most trickiest part, I would say, right? One thing that helped was training and continuous support. We encourage everybody to take all the certifications, right? So all the safe certifications were open for everyone. It incurred a lot of cost, but then that was like a motivation for people to kind of, get certified for Scrum Master, get certified for RT, get certified for POPM. They see different opportunities emerging in their career. That was one. Second, which works the best, is leading by example. So it's not that, okay, my manager said that, okay, do this. My manager first did that. He explained me the benefit, which motivated me. And that was the culture, right? So I think those two things.
Just adding to that.
Yes.
In terms of that journey, right? Who took the ownership of it? Because it's a mammoth scale of exercise that you have done, right? What was the structure in terms of how you owned it and who structurized it throughout the team?
Right. So as I said, we identified 8 value streams, which was led by 8 different STs, the solution trained engineers. It was that solution trained engineers' responsibility to make sure that entire solution train has all the practices being followed, they have all the trainings being conducted and stuff like that. So it's like top down. ST, the RTs, Scrum Masters.
So Dhaval, I have one question.
Yeah.
That when we are planning a safe, right, and when we are building a product, and that too for a global, in that case we are planning to launch a product into different regions of across the globe. In that case, how do you take care of the compliances part? Because like Europe region would be having a different compliances as compared to Asia or as compared to USA, right? So in that case, like, how did those strategies actually come into the picture?
Right. So the compliance part, we were actually relying on, business and legal team. Yeah. So, and that's what I meant by when we took the NFRs. We put extra focus on NFRs and included that as part of ACs. People ask specifically, do we need to take care of any compliance in this requirement? If yes, business give us the requirement. That is added as part of acceptance criteria. Unless and until that is done, the story is not over. The release is not going. The feature is not going into the release. You want to add something? Yeah.
So first, it is released for the legal team. Probably 2 users from Europe will take care of, say, for example, GDPR, right? So they will take care of all the compliance. They'll go through it and make sure it's not violating it. So that's first through the internal team. Only after that, they approve it after audit and everything, only then after to go to the external client. So that's framework is already been set up.
We also have some of the configurations wherein we can control that. Say for example, China is a different region, right? Some of the things are not open up for China and they need specific things for China. So we had a different domain for that. People coming from that region, there was a separate flow to handle those requirements.
Just to top up another question which Karthik has asked, so different people has a different requirement. So basically, EU region has a different version, or China has a different version. How, for a single product, how difficult or which is the efficient way to manage a different versions?
Right. So when I said version, it was not that US and Europe and everybody had a different version. It's just that China had specific items because things are not open up for China, right? Yeah, that was a challenging part. But for the others, we were kind of following the most stringent compliance. Once we follow that, everything else is taken care of. So it was that. It's just that China was separate, not the rest of the region.
Yes. 2 questions. First, so even prior to move to SAFe, what were the KPIs you guys were tracking? 1. And second is after implementing it, what were the differences? Were you finding, some of the KPIs you were able to monitor better?
Very good question. And I'm smiling because I have a story. So before SAFe, we used to mainly focus on velocity and utilization, right? Now, it was very easy for people to have good metrics on these 2 numbers, right? I have velocity of, say, 40 story every sprint and velocity of 100% utilization. But business was not happy because this team has completed everything, but the other team has not completed, and finally, the end result is not achieved. So it was mainly around velocity, utilization, and number of bugs, like P1, P2, P3 bugs. Yeah. After implementing SAFe, the focus was more on some of the flow-related metrics, like the lead time, cycle time. Also, how much business objectives we are achieving. So, business values planned versus achieved, those kind of things. So that was the shift. We literally removed utilization from metrics because we didn't want to say that everybody's working 100% is a right metric. We felt that whatever is number 1 for business, if team is achieving that, we are achieving the goal.
Not fully pertinent to Agile, SAFe, but any specific measures that you take specifically for effective coding in particular? So, for example, the code which is getting written, the scripts which are being written even by the database team. Any specific measures that you take right now, even in SAFe or even earlier?
Yeah, technically I don't think I'll have full visibility, but what we are doing is we have gated check-ins, right? There are a lot of code linting, as we say. People will not be able to check in the code if they do not follow the code coverage, or if there is enough coverage on the unit testing, and if there are any syntactical error, right? So that is added So the code that goes in is fully compliant of that. And then there is a PR approval process. So couple of more folks who are more experienced in that area, they review it. Once that is done, only then it gets checked into the branch. SVA scan, yeah, security scan is another thing that happens.
Hi,
Yeah.
I'm Hemal Bhatt, working as a product manager. And I have a question about the PI planning and how do you manage the, it is always difficult to manage the business priority versus the tech dev and support. So how do you manage it and what are the difficulties you face, if any, and for the same support, when we plan the sprint, there are always, some part we may need to, keep for the support.
Right.
So how do you manage that and is there any learning from your side on the same?
Right. So obviously first thing is everybody understand that everybody works for business, right? Whatever is priority one for business is or has to be priority for everyone. Now, the way we address this is by adjusting the value area split, right? Based on the experience or based on the roadmap. Say for example, I was in a team who was actually creating a common architecture for this product, what I was talking about. We had planned to change the technology from the earlier .NET based version to React based version. Now this team had to spend time on research to come up with the best architecture, to come up with the best mechanism which then will be followed by the other teams, right? So that's where the negotiation or discussion between the business stakeholders and the technical stakeholder happens to understand and align that, okay, this is required. But to address that, we have, say for example, some of the teams who are, whose job is to do more of a support work, they spend 40% of time in business, BAU activities or maintenance activities. Wherein some of the teams who are, say for example, those front-end teams, they spend like 70% of the time on the business deliverables, right? So adjusting that business value area split is the key, right? Depending on the art, depending on the nature of the work, depending on the upcoming work, you can adjust. For this PI, probably have 15% on architecture. For next PI, probably have 20% of architecture, right?
Got it. Thank you.
Yeah. Yeah. So another question.
Yeah, sure.
On the same area, like we all talk about the positive side, right? Like how we do and how you deliver. Did you face a challenge or experience to retain the knowledge?
Yes.
Okay.
So as I said, my slide on challenging, right? Challenges. The decision to go with safe titles was the biggest challenge, right? We actually lost a lot of talented people. Some of them were because their positions were redundant, some of them because they didn't like the title, some of them because they didn't like the new way of working, right? We lost a lot of people. But I don't think there is a solution for that. But yeah, sorry, I missed the other part of your question.
Yeah, so it's the same one, like how do we manage it? But yeah,
yes, obviously, so the knowledge management is relying more on processes, on documents than on people. Difficult to actually execute, easy to say, but that's an attempt and I think that's the only way out.
Okay. Deval, I have a question. Yes, please. If you look at scaling part, yes, Agile community is totally, I say they are totally divided up. They are a fan of safe, they are a fan of disciplined Agile, they are a fan of less, right? So, and certain point I found safe is more hierarchical, which violates agility rule. So what is your take, how challenging it is, even if you have a team who are working independently as Agile, putting them into a safe? Because I have experience with discipline Agile and this is a challenge at some point of a time. Even though teams are working independently, maybe in a project environment on a Scrum, but getting into that particular mindset, because that blocks the first thought that it is hierarchical. We are following back, I won't be comfortable working, so they either opt out of the project or of the company. So what was the challenge and what is your take on that?
Right. I also kind of agree to that. So like as I said, SAFe is heavy in terms of processes, right? Those roles like Scrum Masters, RTs, they're pretty heavy on facilitation part. Thing that I like about SAFe is, big room planning or the PI planning, right? That's an opportunity for everybody to come together, understand what everybody is planning. You have an opportunity to say that, boss, this is not possible. You can directly tell that to the highest business stakeholder because he's there, right? I can tell to the other team saying that, okay, if you cannot do this in next month, my delivery is at risk. Everybody has that visibility. So PI planning is, PI planning or having doing planning in big room in a stream way is what I like about SAFe. And obviously some of the things like becoming heavy and stuff like that is something that not so good about SAFe. But what I think we should do is be adaptable and embrace the agility, right? And that's what we did. We towards the end started doing some experiments. We started exploring some other ways of doing things. It is possible that some of the things are perfectly working fine for team A but not working for team B. So just having that open mindset to hear them out and then work based on their input. So yeah, taking some of the best practices from SAFe and then doing some experiments.
Any more questions? So we call it a break for now. It's time to network, and then we'll having panel discussion. So is it 15 minutes?
We can have for 15-20 minutes, but before we go on a break, can I request everyone to please gather for a group photo?
Sure.
And thank you everyone for your questions.
Thank you so much, Dhaval. Thank you so much. Next session of a panel discussion. And when we talk about panel discussion, right, we would be talking about the product challenges. And we would be talking more about the strategies on the product development challenges. And as we all know that when we talk about product challenges, and based on the knowledge what I carry for the product development, that we have 4 quadrants on product. And we have like existing product, new product is mapped with existing region and a new region, right? And the biggest challenge what I feel when we start product development is like what sort of market research we have, right? Are we running because we are not sure whether the market research which we have done is actually up to the mark. Apart from that, there are a lot of other pitfalls, and to overcome those challenges, to overcome those pitfalls, I have the panelists with me and who would be sharing their expert insights on that. So first I would like to invite Siddharaj as one of our panelists from Agile Technologies. So we have Janki ma'am. She is again one of a mentor of mine from InfoStretch. Please have a seat. And we have Sonia from Capgemini. So before we move ahead and we'll start with the panel discussion, I would request every other panelist to introduce themselves because I would not be the right person to do justice to their introduction. So I would request Siddharaj to introduce yourself first.
Hi, good afternoon, everyone. Thank you and kudos to ANI and Azilian for having this meetup today. Got to learn and share our experience. Myself, Siddharaj Sarvaiya. I'm associated with Azilian as program manager. I carry 13 years of experience in HR tech, e-commerce, and healthcare domain. I love to be part of the product development challenges and also a strong advocate and firm believer of servant leadership. Thank you.
So this is Janaki. I have about 23 years of experience in IT and obviously from waterfall to agile. and I have loved Agile a lot because it gives a lot of flexibility and interaction with the clients, and have worked on various domains. The list is huge. I don't want to mention it here. And that's it. And thank you, Karthik, for giving this opportunity.
Hello. Yeah, so needless to say, I'm super excited to be here today. And again, thanks to Karthik and the Agile Technology and the entire other group of people who are here for listening to us and also sharing their views. So just a brief about me. I'm Sonia and I'm working with Capgemini. And this has been a long journey, about I think 15 plus years of experience with a lot of breaks in between as a part of my social responsibilities, family responsibilities and all. I have been switching into many domains. I started my career from an analyst, and then with places I keep on traveling different states and all as a part of the transferable jobs and all. So I think that was good for me because I could get the feel of many states, interacting with many teams, different people. And also the technology, like you keep on upgrading, because if you have to be in this field, I think you have to come up with what is happening in the real world. So for now, I'm switching my hats between a lot of roles: project manager, scrum master. Sometime we are serving, as you know, it's all about, we are serving as a BA also sometimes, a part of QA team, so it varies. But yeah, that's fun, and I love that. So that's why I'm here today, just to have an interaction and experience and share my experience with you all. Thank you.
Great. So thank you so much, all the panelists, for a quick introduction around it. So myself, Karthik again, and I have 13 plus years of experience in an IT industry, twice a TEDx speaker for most of the conferences happening across the globe. Agile Mumbai APJ 5.2 is the recent conference where I was a speaker, and I talked about machine learning over there. So moving on to the question part, and as I really mentioned about the product challenges, right? So there is a huge challenge when we say about the product development, because when any organization is building a product, the huge challenge is in which quadrant your product falls. And when we talk about product quadrants, it's like existing product and existing region along with existing product in a new region, right? And when we talk about launching a new product, which means that there is no product, no ideas being there across the globe, and we are still trying to solve a problem around it, right? So placing that sort of a product is a big challenge, because this sort of products has never been introduced, and you are asking users to use your product, where it's a big challenge about the research, about the fundings, about the communications. Are we solving a right problem? What is the right time to go to market? So these are a lot of pitfalls which we have in product development. So Sonia, I have a question for you, that what are some of the best practices for conducting thorough competitor analysis and leveraging the findings to improve your product development strategies?
So I think this is the basic, what we should start from, because what my visions are, what my goals are, that may be a goal or a vision for n number of people who are in this industry. But what is going to make my product unique? What are the things that I'm looking that is going to take me to that level where the others are not there? So for this, I would say you must be knowing Spider-Man, right? We say that with PAR, we have a lot of responsibilities coming in. But for a product managers, what I have seen is you have a lot of responsibilities, but you don't have enough PAR, because you have to listen to n number of people. You have to be a person who is handling the business users, your own team. You have to be aligned with, the goals with everyone, So looking into this, sorry for that. Yeah, so coming back, if I want to have the competitors, I want to know my competitors, the first thing to start with is I have to define my things. First of all, what will be my vision and my goals? I don't have to be, thinking about only what I have to do in the first quarter. No. I would say you should have a broad vision, big goals where really I want to go from this level to this level, and this is my product. This is how my things are going to develop from level 1 to level 5, where I would like my product to be there within a year. I know it's very difficult to envision all these things at this point of time when we start that idea of developing something. But this should be our focus, which usually we don't have. We always think that, okay, let us define first, have a plan for at least first quarter, what we are aiming for. Second thing, I would say, if you have heard big rock versus sand, that's a common example what Stephen Covey always tells us, that if you give people a jar where you keep some sand, some pebbles and big rocks, how they are going to assemble that? We have a tendency, we'll fill in the sand first, then comes the pebbles, and then comes your rocks. Usually that is not going to fit in. So this is where we have to think, the big rocks are my strategies, where I have to see that what will be the ones. The smaller things, the pebbles and sands are nothing, but these are my bugs, my day-to-day conversations, my emails, my settling, what all discussions I am doing with my team. So your big rocks should be placed first in the jar, then other things will definitely take their place. The third thing is, I would say, don't say yes to everything. I have my client before me, I'll say, yes, we'll do this, we'll do this, we'll do this. That never works. You have to decide what is good and what is beneficial for the end client. As per that, I have to design my strategy, and I should be competent enough to tell them that what I am thinking is what you should be thinking at this point of time. I know that client is what for we all are working for, and like we just can't say no to things. But somewhere or somehow you have to say no if you have to be in that innovative zone or creative zone. If I am going by the normal, strategies what other people are adopting, it's very difficult to be there in the market on my defined timelines and compete with those competitors who are already there. So the strategy should be like, you should have your, first of all, the planning. You should have your problem zones like you have already defined. I think the basic model which all of us know, what will be my target audience, what are the unserved needs and all, what is my vision, what are the features I'm looking for, what about the user experiences. That's common for every one of us. But how I'm going to design my things is, you have to think my strategies should not be only the features that I'm going to give him. No, that is, you have to keep a balance, or you have to rather, I would say, trade-off between your features and the benefits you're offering to the client. I may be able to give him 10 features, but really how much benefit that is going to give that to him. He's having, like usually people come to us, I want to have this sort of product in the market by this timeline, so you give me the plan. So I think this is for us to understand that, okay, this is his vision, I have to align with this. But then looking at my competitors, what are they offering on the same front, and how I'll be above them. So I have to have my, I would say, a problem zone and the solution zone, where I'll be listing out my features. A very good example is, like now, I would say, you see so many social media apps that are coming in. For our time, Facebook was the one that was the king, right? I still love posting my images in Facebook. But the youngsters, they have all switched to Instagram, and they say, this is an obsolete thing, we don't prefer that. So what is that Instagram has come up to this level? Keeping aside all the photo sharing apps and all, if you see, I think there must be something which these guys must have thought before releasing that. So there are some, I would say, must-have features which you must have, like Cano model, you all know about that. There are some performance benefits which I'm aiming to give to my client. There are some must-have features which should have, a client will feel happy, but it is not that if I don't give, then that happiness is going to reduce. No, there will be a balance of it. And some of my delighters, which makes him delight, which makes my user delight, and he will be happy to use that. So a very basic thing, Karthik, I have 10 minutes?
You have already closed the time.
Yes, so that's what I was thinking. Okay, so to be in short, work on your benefits, what you are giving to the user. Your must-have features should also be there, punched in, and also the delighters, like Instagram, what is a delighter for us? Anyone can come up with that filters, see. And the another one, pardon? Yeah, that is Facebook is also offering now. Huh? Reels, even Facebook has, if I just compare both of them. So you, okay, just to cut short the time. If you see, Insta has a automatic, square aspect ratio of the pictures that you are clicking. I don't have to think whether I'm going to be cut from here or cut from here, no matter what angle I'm clicking the pic. It is going to adjust for you. So that is the point where I really see that this is what is a good feel for the end user also, and for which people think that yes, let us better post in Insta. Even if you see the uploading speed of the pics, that's much faster than the Facebook. So in nowadays, people don't have much time to go for all these things. They'll just go, they'll click, apply some filters, post it, done. So I think these are some of the small things that we have to see as per our today's scenario and the generation which is really going fast, that what should be given to them as a form of delighters. Because must-have we all have, performance benefits we all understand. Many more things are there to share, but yeah, thank you.
Thank you. Yeah. Great. So, where she was trying to probably portray with the customers, where actually she was trying to put herself in the shoes of a product manager, because it's not always that you have to build a product, but when you are building a product for your customers, it's equally important to put yourself in the shoes of a product manager, then you can start adding the values. Right. So thank you, Sonia, for the lengthy answer. Now I have a question for Siddharaj, that the way Sonia portrayed that we have Facebook, we have Instagram, but prior to that we also have an Orkut, and I was having an Orkut account. But if we see this journey, right, how can we probably balance the need of a speed and an agility from the testing standpoint? Because like you are from the QA background, right? So I just wanted to understand that how can we map it out like speed and agility in terms of testing?
As Karthik mentioned, I'm from the QA background, so my answer might be biased. But I'm glad that we have this point for discussion. Most of the times, when it comes to the QA and the testing phase, it's considered that time bachega to QA test kar lega, in sprint. Similarly, so there are two aspects. Validations also are equally important. So when it comes to the QA strategy, I believe that there are three things. First is this QA strategy, which the companies which have cracked the code, they have the set processes, they know that, okay, QA is equally important. So they have cracked the code of quality. For example, Apple products, everybody loves, the quality and the user experience it offers. So, but for the companies who are growing and they, they don't have the budget per se for QA and not the time for QA. So it's fine when they have a lower customer base, fewer customers who are using it. But just from the experience of Chintan's presentation, when it comes to scalability, more and more users are coming to the platform. They'll start uncovering those hidden bugs which were still under the carpet. So they'll, start uncovering it. Now the company would be in dilemma. They have a limited time, limited Scrum team's, effort. So where do they put their effort? To fix those bugs which are just uncovered, or work on the roadmap, where they want to take the company's vision. So to address this, in my perspective, I think there are three important things. First is the QA strategy. What to test, how to test, when to test. Sometimes the QA teams are operating in silos. From the example of Dhaval's presentation, they don't know what's being developed in the sprint. At the end of the sprint, the QA teams are shared. Someone will call the QA and say, "Acha, ye test karna hai. We have a release tomorrow or day after that." So they don't even know. They don't know the user personas. They don't have the test data. What's going to be real life experience. So that's the QA strategy. Second is the automation and the CI/CD integrations. As the company grows, there were a couple of examples given that there might be, in Facebook, Netflix, they will be deploying 100 times a day. So what gives this benefit is you don't have to wait for the developer to give you that build manually. You go there and deploy that build. Developer chutti pe hai, so all those things might save you that time. Also comes in the picture the automation. So when there's a new build, if you have automation in place, you are sure that okay, your smoke testing cases are covered through automation. So every time you save that effort of a manual QA going in, testing the whole application, the important areas and everything. So that's where I believe that automation and CI/CD integration, of course, it comes with the budget and the skill set. But if you want to grow in this competitive market and give the wow experience in quality, that's absolutely necessary. And the last point is testing in increment in smaller batches. Rather than waiting for those 15-20 days of bulk tasks coming in, it's equally important that we keep testing. We have those frameworks where the test cases are ready, even before the code is written. So I think these three things are important to get that. And lastly, it's not just QA's responsibility. All the validation should also come from all the team members of the Scrum, right? Be it the product owner, how the user stories are well defined, the code quality, the market strategies are being studied. So all this, is a team combined effort, not just from the QA.
Thank you so much, Siddharaj, for bringing this point. I have the familiar faces from the development team from Agile who can relate those points. Because we literally, 5 years back when I was part of Agile and I was part of, fortunate enough that I was part of a QA, and we were actually so agile that my development team would actually fix one bug and say, they turn the chair and say, "Ye test karna hai, kar dena zara." So this was an agility what we followed from 5 years back, but obviously we have learned over a period of time. So, Janki ma'am, I have one question for you that I would love to hear some examples like the way Sonia and Siddharaj conveyed, right? Can you share some more examples from the lean methodologies where you have implemented and precisely from the product development standpoint?
So in one of my experience, the client was very much interested in knowing the product quality, okay? So we thought let us start with some sonar or, something so that we can show him some results, okay, this is what we are doing. We are going to write the unit test and all, okay? So we thought about that, we came up with a plan. But when the product was actually, the code was, given to us, it was a coupled code. Okay, that the front end and the back end, I think mostly technical people will understand, the front end and the back end were coupled together. So there was no way, that we could pass both the codes through the sonar. So the challenge was to decouple it, okay. So when we tried to estimate everything, it was more than 6+ months of effort, okay. And that was not a viable option when we look at from the business perspective, because it was already into the production, they were already using it, and there were a lot of other challenges. They had other, they were changing their business processes at the same time, so the product needed those changes as well. So these were all the challenges that we had. So with the 6 months plus, the plan was not going to work for anyone. So obviously some innovation and our technical architect, I should not name any person, but he was not interested in any mid grounds. He said, okay, 6 months, you work on 6 months for the product and then change everything and then you can push the code. So that was not a viable option when we look at from MVP side, or it doesn't add any value to the business, because it is just, we wanted to understand the quality, but if you want to change this whole stuff, it is adding no business value. Their end users are not getting any other benefit. They're already using these things. So with the innovation in mind, we gave, we gave some technical leads and we asked them to find a mid ground. Okay, so there we found a mid ground of using two frameworks in the same development code, where new features can be built, and old features like whatever we had, that can be decoupled constantly. So then again, the budget constraints and getting the trust of the client and involving them, because since it was already in operation, so involving the end users of the client was very important for us. So we followed a very lean method where we picked up few features, we planned sprint-wise into Agile, and then we actually delivered sprint-wise, and we at the same time the testing also we had a strategy for testing in our testing environment, where we provided the existing build as well as the new decoupled build, so that both can be compared and tested. And we created a separate UAT for this environment, where the end users could actually test and see that this decoupling was working as fine. So it also took 6 months, but it was more like the client had we had the trust of the client. He was happy with the results, and then we could actually deliver it phase wise to the end production as well.
Great.
So that's one example.
Great, great.
So there is another one also similar, recently, or not very recent, but Angular upgrade was there. They were not supporting one version anymore, and everybody wanted to upgrade the Angular versions and all. So that was also quite a challenge, with new Angular having old one having a component-based structure, this having a terraforms and all that stuff. Okay, so I think there also we tried to we learned from the first experience, and then we tried to do it in a similar fashion, where but the teams that we have created, it was like front end, back end, and everyone into a solid team who already knew the existing functionality, so that we could deliver better.
Awesome. So you have already shared that the strategies which you have used for an existing projects or existing products, right? So Sonia, I have one more question for you when it comes to new product development, right? When you are planning to launch a new product into a new region, right? How organization can streamline their processes to reduce the time to market? Because time to market is equally important. So what are the strategies do we need to follow it, right? So that we can achieve a good quality product, but without wasting any time, so without actually utilizing the best use of our time. So can you please share your insights on that?
Yeah. So you can stop me or 2 minutes before, you can just tell me.
No problem. Thank you.
Starting my career from the content part, we are used to write more and speak more. Okay. So time to market. Now this is a term which everyone of us know, but if people are new to this, I would say the day I start thinking about something, and the day that is going to be launched in the market is the entire time when I'm envisioning that my product will be out in the market within 3 months. But I don't know how many of you have really delivered in that defined timelines, and how many challenges you had in that. Because as per the Gartner study, if you have seen, nearly 11% of the companies are able to deliver on time with whatever scope they started with. And the rest of them, maybe 1 month here or there, around 50% of the companies fall into that range. But I would say it is good to go slow, but with the quality, Otherwise, it is going to come back to you, and that is going to cost you heavy. So we have our timelines and all, everything is set. But looking at the things, the first thing start is with my team. Do I have a good cross-functional team who's going to take care of everything? Project manager or scrum masters don't have to monitor them minutely, what is going around, how are we, what is the report, this, that. So that is the utmost important thing, where I am relying on my cross-functional team who is actually taking care of all the events. They are picking as per their own stories and all, and they know their deadlines and all. They are mature enough. The second is about the scope that we have fixed. We actually happen to take a lot of things in one sprint if we are moving in maybe 2 weeks or 3 weeks. But what is the practical thing? You know, what is, once you start, you say, yes, yes, this is feasible. But as you go along, maybe you have an experience in first or second cycle that I think that we are hurriedly moving everything into the bucket of QA, as he said. And things are going to come back when it is the SIT time or the UAT time also. So avoid taking lot of scope, go in small buckets, which is really helping the end user. Ask from the business users only, what is the utmost important thing for you? What are your priorities? Let us focus that. Take in small streams, and then, or if you want to go for an MVP model, that also works, because that is out in the market in the defined timelines, and we are also able to capture the mind of the people for whom we are developing. They see something good is coming up, so they will be also keeping cool by the time we give them more features. Next is about automation, what he just spoke, which is going to speed up our testing part, and also some of the things that we keep on doing manually, which actually kills a lot of time. So I think these are small, bulleted points where I would say that these do account if I am planning that, okay, my product should be out in the market within this timeline. But knowing the other challenges that may come in, always there is again, you should think that what is more important for the client, whether it is the quality or the features you are delivering. At the end, when everything is in prod and the people start using it, you come up with a lot of defects, you come up with a lot of changes. I think that's not a wise decision or a wise strategy. So move in small steps, deliver whatever is good, quality-wise also, and we are sure that yes, these things will work for our end users, because that is benefiting them as how. Yeah, that's all. Thanks.
Great, thank you. So, Siddharaj, I have a top-up question on that, right? When Sonia mentioned that we need to deliver it on time and time to market with MVP and everything, right? So there are a lot of jargons and a lot of things around product development, but how can companies, like if you're building a product, right, how can a company strike a balance between innovation and risk? Because we also have to achieve time to market, right? So there would be a lot of developers who are very enthusiastic, who would be saying that, like, we have to do this, this is how we can scale it. There would be some other person who can say we can add this feature, right? And this how actually we would start adding the product features, we would start scaling the products, right, on technical side as well. So there would be a lot of work around it. So how can a company strike a balance between innovation and risk and reduce the time to market as well?
Firstly, let's try, take a step back and see what's driving that innovation. Is it really required, to stay relevant in the market? For example, ChatGPT. Most of the companies would not have AI-based, ChatGPT or chatbot solutions in their roadmap till, the previous December. But then what changed is, they had to stay relevant. So they wanted to have that innovation, first in the market. So first is, need to understand what's driving that innovation. If they really want to be a market leader, that's what's driving the innovation, or they want to do something different from their competitors. There's a beautiful piece written by Eric Ries, in which he mentions how typically a service or a product-oriented companies, approaches a product development. So the base, if you consider a triangle, the base is your vision, which is the core. It's not going to change. It's the fundamental base of any company or product. So that's the vision. On top of that, there's a strategy, which is built on your vision. And then on the first layer or the very top layer is your product or your service, which you are building. Now that product or service might change due to the external factors. Let's say you want to acquire the user base, you want to be the first in the market, you want to be innovative. So that can change according to the external factors. Based on the end goal of that product, your strategies has to be aligned. So it gives a proper cushioning. So in this case, we are saying that there's innovation, and then what are the risks? So the first thing is iterative prototyping. In my opinion, I guess the company needs to cultivate the culture of failing fast, that's what at Azilin also we discuss almost every day, that if you want to innovate something, you have to be ready to be failing very fast. So even if there's something goes wrong, there's always time, and there's plan B. The second, in my opinion, is time to market. Like Sonia mentioned, you have to do the reverse engineering. If you have a specific date or timeline in mind that I want to be here, is innovation really required? Do you really want to reinvent the wheel, or you can utilize some of the existing solutions? But the biggest factor is you have to cultivate that culture where teams are given that freedom, or the minds are given that freedom to ignite and come up with that innovative solution. But at the same time, what's the cost of that innovation for the product?
Well drafted and very well conveyed that innovation is actually required, but into the cost and to the budget. And before that, like the way you mentioned it, Sujanki ma'am, I have a question for you. When Siddharth mentioned about the culture, right, and which is actually plays a crucial role or crucial part in any organization to build an innovation. So what are the different approaches, if you can share from your experience, because like you are a veteran to an industry, and many people have got mentored under you, including me. So what approaches probably you would like to share to foster a culture of an innovation and creativity within the product development team?
Okay, first, I think we cannot force certain things like innovation and creativity. It has to come within. But things like, we can align people towards it. First thing, like everybody mentioned, that vision is very important from the management. And it has to move from management to all the layers of, whatever reporting we are having. So that everyone understands that we have one vision, okay? Let us say, you have a vision that you want to improve a car, okay? For some way, and then somebody has an innovation idea of doing something on a scooter. It will not work for your organization, okay? So that so we'll have to be very clear with what is the vision first, and maybe articulate it to everyone, okay? Then there are ways of implementing. I can share my few experiences. Some of organizations have put innovation, at small levels, like, even if you are executing a particular small project or a small release or anything, then you can always, in some sprint retrospective or somewhere, they can tell, what exactly they have done, or, not a very big innovation, but they have done something out of box to encourage the culture, okay? And then you praise them, they give kudos to those guys so that they are motivated to do certain things. So that is at the ground level how any lead or people who are actually dealing with the teams can manage innovation. At the higher level, when you see, then many like 2 or 3 companies, they have put it as part of their KRAs, or you reward people who are, if they are not part of KRA also, if somebody is doing some innovation and it is helpful and it is aligned with your vision, then you try to reward the people. Award and reward, that is a motivation, to keep things going on.
Great. So definitely culture and rewarding part would actually play a crucial role when it comes to fostering a culture or to make people innovative and creative. So I do not have much of a questions for you, but the last question from my end is like, how does a leader strike a balance between providing a guidance and allowing a creativity freedom for the team to explore the potential solution? Because this is much required and it's need of an hour as well. So it's an open question for all 3 of you. Anyone can share your thoughts on that.
So I think, like I said, if it is aligned to your vision, I think you should always encourage. But obviously, like you mentioned, the budget and costs are there. So if you are a product management company, I think you can always allocate certain budget for that, and that will help. But if you are into services, obviously it is an extra effort, because I don't know how much of innovation everybody can take it. It depends on how much risk and how much effort you can actually take.
Okay. Siddharaj, would you like to share some thoughts?
Yeah, I just wanted to add one point, like being a leader, the biggest, I would say, area which everybody misses is, they want to create more leaders. So in an organization, if let's say, if you are leading a project, you would want to see your people stepping up. So that culture needs to be, there in the organization where more leaders can, be grown, be cultivated for a leader. Secondly, giving that transparent communication of what's the vision of the company or the product which they are building. No matter even if you're just working on a small module, that communication has to be very apt between that leader and the team, so they know for what purpose they are working. Most of the times, that's not the case. You just pick it up the task which is given to you, but this is fine in some of the cases. But ultimately, if the whole team, has to grow and succeed, then I guess that communication has to be there. And then there was one very good example which was shared that most of the companies are, there are two companies, one is which is following the Agile, and the second is who are showing that they are following the Agile. So in that pressure, most of the team, team members or the developers or the Scrum team, they succumb to that pressure of following the process just to show that, okay, no, we are following the Agile. So I think that also needs to, that culture needs to, change. I'm not sure how that change can be brought, how soon that can be brought, but I guess whatever fits the project or the company, it has to be custom made. It's not just for the show off that, okay, they are following, we have to follow. So I think that change needs to be there for that environment.
Do you really think that, because it's a very bold step and it's a very courageous step for any organization, because people usually follow certain footsteps, right? If Apple is setting an example, every other organization wanted to be Apple, whether they can actually afford to be an Apple or not.
So that's how the leader will be born, following that bold, decisions. So, but yeah, it's just that Apple was able to pull it off, but in pressure of that, most of the organizations are not able to pull it off, and then that pressure of, showing off of the processes which is not giving any value addition is, creating problems. That's what my feeling is.
I do agree on that, because like we said, we need to set an agreements before we move ahead, right? Because setting an agreement, setting a discipline is more important before culture as well, and that is again a part of a culture, and that is again which would actually add something to an innovation side. So Sonia, do you have any thought process on that?
Yeah, I think most of the points like they have already spoken about. Few of my observation is like, if you don't give freedom to your people for speaking and also the time for that brainstorming sessions, you will lose the best gems, because those people get suffocated after a time. They say we have so many ideas, but no one is there to listen. We have to follow that old process again and again. We hardly have time between our sprints where we have to deliver. So when are we going to pitch in with all these ideas, and where are the people when they are going to take the decision on? So this is also one of the things, like there are a lot of people all around who are there for guiding us, giving us a lot of good things and stuff and trainings and this, that. But I think there should be a time where you should listen to the people also, especially the leaders, and give them little bit space, free them from the normal routine, and then only the innovation is going to come up. Because this is my observation throughout my career, that we all follow what is being told, but to follow the one which we really want to, hardly we get any time, and also the support from the top management. So this is where we need to stand, and we really need to, we have to have good bosses, I would say. Otherwise, it's very difficult to pitch in and also let them know that this is what is good for us. So you have to make your own ways sometimes.
Thank you.
Yeah.
So I guess we are open for questions from an audience side. Do anyone have any questions for our panelist? Yes, Jayendra.
Time to market. Where do you see the importance of domain knowledge, right? Because I have seen a lot of gap between product technical teams in terms of they don't understand business, right? They don't know why this feature is being developed, what is the user perspective of it, and they make a lot of mistakes in terms of implementation from the business perspective. So how important it is for the technical teams and the people involved in the product team to get that training, that understanding of the domain?
I would say this is the first point where it has to be told to the technical team. The URS and the FRS and all those mapping stuff which you guys are doing, This should be more, it should be starting from what actually the user is looking for. This is my business goal. And so you have to build this. So, you know, those all things is the responsibility of the BAs, that they have to be clear in these, then passing all those things to the technical team. Because if you don't, you blindly follow the vision. You have to develop this, do that. I think that is not going to work out. Unless he knows what he's looking for, why he's doing this thing.
Exactly. And sometimes they come up with some innovations, definitely,
Yes.
but it doesn't make any sense from the business perspective.
Correct.
Right? So again, that they of course lose motivation that we are not listening, but they don't understand the business side of it, right? So
Yes, yes.
a part of the learning.
Correct. So for this, I think what in our organizations, what we do is we start with the day the project starts. The first, I would say, the discussion will be why we are doing this. You know, who's my end user? What benefit are you contributing? Are you really helping the society by developing this? And you, like, we have to tell them that you are among those elite people, you know, who are really going to help the society in this with your product. So this should be your vision. I don't want big things to come up unless it's benefiting the end user.
Thank you.
Yeah, thanks.
I have one question on, so as we are talking about sharing out the futuristic roadmap about the product or product feature to the team or certain other things, how do you see that a confidential information can be disclosed knowingly or unknowingly by any of your innovative engineer, and your customer or your product itself get failed? So what I was saying is we are talking about sharing out the product knowledge, sharing out the product information, sharing out the roadmap and other things. But there are certain cases where we have seen like certain confidential information such as core feature of the product get disclosed or they get revealed into the market before you the product. How do you think that like your product gets failed because of your competitor or other are already knowing about the upcoming products or upcoming feature which you are launching? So how do you like, can you share your experience in the context, like how someone need to deal out with this kind of situation as a project manager as well? Yeah.
So I'll just share my input and then the other panel member can also add. So it's a two-way street, just like we do the competitor analysis, we also try to get as much information of their product, you know. So it's a two-way street. Someone will also look at your product and try to find as much information of your product as well. Coming to that, how it's not revealed, I guess that's where the compliance is and the processes will, you know, guard you at most. How strong your process of compliance are there, you know, what sort of, let's say, in some of the cases, even for which end customer that product is going to be, or that feature is going to be, you know, released, that's also not mentioned. The test data which we are using should be, you know, anonymized. So I guess putting up those stringent security and governance plus compliances would help you to resolve that. But again, it would come from the team culture, you know, what sort of practices they follow, what information they are going to, you know, roll out to the outside world when it's specifically told them it's confidential. So yeah, I guess the compliance and the processes would play important part in building that culture.
So I have a question. I think we have experts from both the end, Capgemini, like Agile and both of them, right? My question is, there is two aspects of the business. One is the product outsourcing, product development outsourcing. And then there is a product development in-house. When I say in-house, it's your own product. Say for Agile has their own product, right? And maybe Capgemini may be working for one of your client products, right? That you have to develop. So what is the core difference? I think many of you would have worked for the both of these kind of assignments. And what is the core difference and that you think that it should be there? Because we are also being Priden, we are also in the product outsourcing space, right? And we have also our own couple of products to be conceptualized, right? And we see a lot of struggling between them because for our own product, our people are very much aligned with that. We have our own in-house team. But when it comes to the product outsourcing, right, there are completely different scenarios. So I would like to understand your, experience or perspective on the same. I think any of you can take. Yeah. And if possible, all of you.
Sure. So the pain which you mentioned, that our team are already aligned with our product, but when it comes to the customer or outsourcing, that they're the team. So that's the, the reason is when they are working for your product, they are in front of you, they are, discussing every day, the pain of that product. When it comes to the customer products or when you're working as a service for that product, what happens is you are not exposed to their vision completely. You are not exposed to their market, what they are trying to achieve. You can have the numbers, okay, we want to reach here, we want to achieve that. But how do they want to achieve it? Some of the strategies are not revealed because they just consider you as a development partner. And that's the reason, the business side of the strategies are not revealed. And in my opinion, that's one of the biggest disconnect, for the team who are working remotely, are not able to connect with, their vision or how do they want to reach there. That's my observation.
And another biggest fear is that even engineers, they will be replaced, right? Say for example, our principal developer is working on them, right? What they feel is anyway, after 6 months I am going to replace. So we are not getting that connect. Yeah.
And that's where the point one of the audience member mentioned that the domain knowledge is equally important. For us, if you see the biggest risk in your project, you would see is the person who is holding the biggest knowledge. And you would fear that, okay, if this person leaves, what's the problem, right? So that's where, you need to have multiple, members cultivated to gain that domain knowledge. It's not just one person holding the knowledge, and you'll always be at risk and fear, this month is his appraisal, array tension ho jayega agar ye chala gaya na to. So you'll always live in that fear.
For me, I can say, see, if you are in a confined space, everything is in control. But when it goes beyond the boundaries, especially global, if you talk about that, it's very difficult to handle all these things. So for that point of time, I think that hierarchy definitely matters. You should have some business managers, I would say BMs, on top of each and every small teams, if you're dealing globally on that. And these are the people who are going to mentor the end team with relate to all the KPIs that they're working on, with relate to what is the vision. You don't have to go beyond certain things. You have to be under those compliances, what we are talking about. And that has to be shared only with the respective BMs. And these BMs are again then connecting with the different areas or different regions. And then they are sharing the vision with the end client. So there, how the flow should move on. Because if everyone is knowing everything, and I think hardly we have time to, have such big meetings where we are sitting with all and sharing all these ideas and this and that. So that has to go in a particular flow. Like that flow of information is very important, to whom we should give what sort of information. And that is really relevant for that person or not. He should not know the budgetary part or the cost part or this. So that is how you should manage, and rather we have been managing in that way. Because usually in MNCs and all, you see there are big global projects where we have a lot of challenges dealing with third parties. Because you have to really break your head understanding what you want and what they have to give you. And a lot of approvals and all those stuff, that takes a big time of yours. So the thing is, just connect to the right person. Tell him what actually you want in a very crisp way. No need of all those big mails and all those stuff, and get your work done. That is a simple way. I would always prefer go in small steps and in crisp information, whatever is required. If I want to educate my team, I will do that. But then I think having big gatherings and spending those 2 or 5 hours of meeting, that yields nothing. So that's what approach I like. Have small groups, discuss, and let that information flow through the hierarchy. Yeah.
Thank you. Any more questions?
My question is, creativity sometimes get killed by marketing guys. And I assume that what should be the knowledge marketing team should have about technology? Because normally what happens is, marketing commits X feature in Y amount of a time, though exactly it is X into Y. But normally, and that practicality is happening. Because you already have any product in a market, you have a competitor, you have to beat him. So how much knowledge the marketing team or training marketing team should be given about technology, so this problem of killing creativity should not happen. Because the moment you kill creativity, either it is project management team killing that creativity, or sales team, or even technology team themselves creating it, product team going to fail sooner or later. So I just want to validate how much and what is too much for them, for a sales team to absorb it.
Definitely. Business people won't go into that much of technical things and all, because they want to get the business. They will say yes to everything and they'll make the big proposal, then they'll hand over to you. But where we can cut down these things is, once they have drafted all those things, let a technical person review that. That's utmost important. Whatever we are committing, that should be screened by our technical heads, and then it should be presented to the end client. That is where, you know, the entire thing goes around, because no matter how much busy that technical person may be, but you will be landing nowhere if you commit them everything and at the end you are not able to give that, as well as you don't have the time to show your creativity also. That backup times, whatever, backups are always necessary, whether it is time, cost, everything. So I think those intervention of few people is very much required before freezing all these proposals.
Thank you. So guys, technical guys, now you got your answers.
Yeah, they must be
Sales
complaining.
team would have a difference of an opinion over it, because sales team will say that अगर हम लोग फेंकेंगे नहीं तो धंधा कैसे लाएंगे?
Correct.
आप जो कर रहे हैं वो करो, ये तो करना पड़ेगा.
And technical people are going to be, they must be, you know, grumbling why this is coming to us. We don't have.
I have sales guy over here who can relate to that.
I have worked in an organization where they had a pre-sales department. Okay, in that they have, like, you know, your marketing guys as well as some of the tech people, not on a regular basis, but depending on the technology and all, you can like, you know, keep the people needed so that, you know, you're not estimating or you're not proposing too out of range things which cannot be achieved. So that is one concept which can be taken up.
Great. Any more questions? Sounds like you're good to call it off. Thank you. So we have a good conclusion that everything should get aligned, and culture, time to market, everything should be taken care into equation. Before we move ahead, because like challenges would be there, you cannot run away from the challenges. But yes, as a team, if you operate in that case, like there is no such challenges as big as you guys think. But yeah, challenges are part and parcel of the life, and we have to move on. So thank you guys. With this closing note, I thank you everyone to be part of this event, and thank you so much for making this event so successful. Again, thank you so much to the Agile Technologies for helping us out to host this event. Thank you, Chintan, for the wonderful presentation. Thank you, panelists, and thank you, Nirav, for helping us out with a good presentation. So thank you so much, everyone. Thank you, guys.